Look at a map of the world today. You see Russia, China, and India. Now, look at this map from the Encyclopedia Britannica, published in 1771. Right there, covering the entire northern hemisphere, is a massive country labeled Grande Tartarie. According to this encyclopedia, Tartaria was a vast country in the northern part of Asia, bounded by Siberia on the north and the west. It was the biggest country in the world, bigger than the Roman Empire, bigger than the Ottoman Empire. It had its own flag, its own government, and its own language. But if you open a history book today, it is gone. Historians tell us Tartaria was just a loose collection of nomadic tribes, horsemen living in tents. But the evidence left behind tells a very different story. Why does the CIA have a declassified document from 1957 that explicitly mentions the erasure of the history of Tartaria? What were they trying to hide? And is it possible that a technologically advanced global civilization was systematically destroyed and reset just 200 years ago? To understand Tartaria, we must look at the buildings. All over the world, from St. Petersburg to Paris to Washington, D.C., and even in places like Japan and India, we see the exact same style of architecture: massive stone columns, giant arches, soaring domes, and incredible precision. Historians call this Greco-Roman or neoclassical. They tell us these massive structures were built in the mid-1800s by people who rode horses and used wooden carts. Let's look at the facts. Take the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., or the St. Isaac's Cathedral in Russia. These buildings contain stones weighing hundreds of tons. They have intricate details that would be difficult to carve even with modern laser cutters. Yet we are told they were built by men with chisels, hammers, and donkeys in just a few years, and usually with no blueprints found. Does that make sense? Or were these buildings already there? The Tartaria theory suggests that we didn't build these structures. We inherited them. We found the ruins of a greater civilization, dug them out, and renamed them. And the proof is hiding in the basement. Have you ever walked around an old city like London, Chicago, or Moscow and noticed something strange about the windows? Many historic buildings have windows that are half buried in the ground. Architects call them light wells. But stop and think. Why would a master architect design a window that stares directly into a dirt wall? Why are the doors of these basements often massive and ornate, just like the front doors? Because they were the front doors. This is the key evidence for the event known as the Mud Flood. Researchers believe that sometime in the early 19th century, a massive cataclysm occurred, a liquefaction of the soil or a global flood of mud that swallowed the bottom floors of buildings worldwide. We see photos from the 1860s showing excavation work, where workers are digging out entire streets. Underneath the sidewalks, they find fully formed doors, windows, and shops that were buried 10 to 20 feet underground. This wasn't just cultural layers or dust accumulating over time. This was a sudden event, an event that wiped out the population and buried the history of the Tartarian Empire. But why erase them? What did the Tartarians have that was so dangerous? The answer might be energy. Look at the tops of these ancient buildings. The cathedrals, the capitals, the mosques, they all feature massive domes, metal spires, and intricate antennas. We are told these are religious symbols, but they look suspiciously like conductors. Tartaria researchers call this Antiquitech. The theory is that these buildings were not churches or government halls. They were power plants. They were designed to harness electromagnetic energy from the ether, the atmosphere, and transmit it wirelessly, just like Nikola Tesla tried to do 100 years later. Notice how many old fireplaces have no chimneys, and how they contain metal backplates. Were they used for burning wood? Or were they ionization points to receive wireless heating from the central towers? If Tartaria had free wireless energy, that would be a threat to the oil, coal, and gas industries that rose to power in the 1900s. To monetize energy, you have to destroy the free source. So how do you hide a global empire? You burn the evidence. Between 1800 and 1900, almost every major city in the world suffered a Great Fire. The Great Fire of London, the Great Chicago Fire, the burning of Moscow, the San Francisco Fire. We are told these were accidents, a cow kicking over a lantern. But was it a coordinated effort to destroy the old world? And then came the World Fairs. In the late 1800s, massive, impossible cities were built in Chicago, St. Louis, and San Francisco, supposedly just for a temporary fair. They featured grand palaces, electric lights, and moving sidewalks. They told the public these were built of plaster and hemp by temporary workers. But looking at the photos, they look like ancient marble masterpieces. And as soon as the fairs were over, they were destroyed, blown up, thrown into the trash. Why? Was it to show the surviving population the technology of the past, one last time before destroying it forever? Was this the final phase of the Great Reset? We may never know the full truth about Grande Tartarie, but once you see the buried windows, the impossible architecture, and the maps that shouldn't exist, you cannot unsee them. History is written by the victors, and it seems the victors of the last reset decided to write Tartaria out of existence. Welcome to the Lost Epoch. Subscribe as we dig for the truth.